Hey guys, it's Edward. This video will be a follow-up interview with my student who managed to score the second highest possible interview score on her Google Onsite. In this, we talk about her experience with the virtual on-site interview process, her approaches to problem solving and studying, and most importantly, her key takeaways, not just from the entire interview process, but also from our session. If you haven't watched that session, I'll link it down below and I'll make it clickable, I think here, or well, you get it. There'll be a banner saying something. I think there's something for everyone to learn in this video, especially if you're trying to get a position at a big tech company. Internship and job hunting season is going to start ramping up very soon, so I would highly suggest you at least watch this video till the end to get a peek into the mind of a successful candidate. By doing this, you can copy her approach and her mindset in order to find success of your own. So remember, if you like videos like these, please hit that like and subscribe button and watch this until the very end. Also, feel free to connect with me on these social platforms. It's a great way for me to interact with you all, and you can vote on what topics and videos you want me to cover next. So with that, let's begin. So, congratulations again on passing the Google interview.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm still a bit anxious about the team matching phase, but I hope it goes well.
No, I think you'll definitely do. I think you'll find a team for sure. There's a lot of teams in Google, and based on where on your score, it seems like you did really, really well. So there's like no reason to reject you at this point.
Yeah, but I think I've been like spending a lot of time online and like reading about the team matching phase and reading about like sad stories with people with things going wrong. Mm-hmm. And I've read that now they're slowing down on the hiring because of COVID and things. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. My recruiter said there's nothing to worry about, but still,
gotcha.
I'm still a bit worried.
Yeah, and so for the viewers, could you give a little brief blurb about your interview results?
Yes, so I had the 5 on-site interviews, and I got on 4 of them I got a strong hire, and then on one of the technical ones I got only a hire, but still pretty good feedback that basically allowed me to go to the next stage, which is the team matching phase.
That's awesome, man. That's really awesome. Yeah. So just to kick off the interview, let's talk a little bit about your background. Like, how did you find out about me? What was your previous interview performance like? And where were you in your studying?
Okay, should I mention also a bit about like my working background?
If you want to, that's up to you.
Okay, so I graduated my bachelor's degree 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. But I started working since during my studies. Mm-hmm. I was working initially part-time, and then after my studies I started working full-time, and I worked at a couple of companies in Romania. Mm-hmm. And I've been at CERN in Geneva in Switzerland for the past 2 years now. Mm-hmm. So how I applied for Google, I had initially applied for Google during my studies for an internship. Mm-hmm. But I didn't make it past the second phone screen. Mm-hmm. So that was like my prior experience with Google, and then I got contacted earlier this year, and I decided that I want to get ready and freshen up on my interviewing skills and give it a shot. Mm-hmm. So I started studying basically sometime around March. But I wasn't. I was only studying like 2 hours a day or so, or even some days not at all. So I was doing it a bit passively until I scheduled my first interview, which was the phone interview. And then 2 weeks prior to the phone interview, I started studying a bit more and took days off of work to study. Mm-hmm. So my study plan, basically, I started off with doing cracking the coding interview book. Mm-hmm. Just because I wanted to like have also a bit of theory about the different data structures and algorithms and things like that. So have a bit of theory background as well to just refresh on that, and then see how they approach the different problems. So I did most of the data structures and the data structure chapters. Mm-hmm. And then what I started doing is I started doing basically problems on Leetcode, and also doing some mock interviews on Pramp.io, you know, the platform. Yeah. So how I found out about you is my brother was actually a subscriber to your channel, and he told me that you were doing you were doing mock interviews and you were doing some coaching sessions. So he was the one that sort of introduced me to you, and I think I contacted you. I guess it was like 2 weeks before my on-site interviews, right?
Yeah, I think like 2-3 weeks before that.
Yeah, 3 weeks actually. Yeah, 3 weeks before my on-site interviews. Yeah, and you gave me really good advice about, because what I was struggling with is the fact that I was doing these mock interviews on Pramp.io, and I was also doing some mock interviews with friends, but none of the people I was doing the mock interviews with had actually gone through like a FANG interview or had worked at a FANG company or had that prior experience. So they couldn't really give me a lot of feedback, and they only could tell me like, okay, you managed to solve the problem, or you didn't solve it, which I could tell for myself. So that wasn't really helpful for me. But also on Pramp, I got matched with a lot of people that had a lot less experience, or just weren't really into, just really were focused on their interview and then weren't really focused on like actually being there for your interview. So I didn't have a really pleasant experience with that. So yeah, I think you were actually like the first mock interview that I had that was really helpful and could actually give me valuable feedback and point out the things that I was doing wrong. That was really helpful for me. Especially the fact that you told me to like explain my thought process more clearly. Actually, that was one of the points in the feedback that I got, that I explained my thought process really well and clearly, and they liked that. So that was something you actually helped me with, because I think I was rushing into my explanations initially. That was something you pointed out initially.
Yeah.
So that was really great for me.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah, and also you recommended grokking, and actually I ended up having time to finish grokking the what was the course, the patterns, the coding patterns, but there was also another grokking with like dynamic programming. So I managed to do both those courses before my on-sites, which were really helpful.
It's awesome. It's
and it was really cool to see like, because I was doing all of these Leetcoding and I was going through these patterns, but I wasn't like remembering basically which pattern it was, or I was stumbling upon the pattern again but not recognizing it, and that really helped like clarify things for me. So that was really cool as well.
That's good. That's good. You touched on a lot of the questions that I'm going to ask later on, but again, I'm really happy to hear that my advice was like not only super useful but super applicable. And it seems like would it be accurate to say that your past preparation was not optimal or great?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it was. It was also the fact that I didn't really have a lot of people that I know that had gone through like a FANG interview process, or had applied there and like knew how to give me the proper advice and guide me into the right way. So I think that was the main issue for me when I was getting ready by myself.
That makes sense. And just to clarify, your only other prior experience with a Google type interview or a FANG type interview was your internship interview with Google.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my only prior experience with such an interview.
Okay. So this was basically your first full-on, full-time FANG interview, and you passed it with flying colors.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. How did it feel? How'd that feel?
Well, I really couldn't believe it. Like when I really thought that I didn't do so well. I was a bit harsh on myself with like the feedback. So when the interviewer said that I got really good, because he initially asked me how I thought the interviews went, and I started like pointing out things that I'd done wrong or what I wish I would have done differently. And then he said he basically started laughing and said that he doesn't know what I'm talking about. That the feedback is really good. So that was really surprising for me. But I was so happy. I was extremely happy, especially thinking that I wouldn't make it. I thought like I had a 10% chance, and then to see like all of the feedback was really good. That was amazing.
I hear that's like you're not the only person to actually tell me that. Even I did that to myself as well. Every single interview I have ever done, I thought I could have done better. So you're not alone in that.
But I actually realized that helped me a bit, because like I thought that my second interview went really badly, but I got a strong hire on that one. Wow. I was really surprised about that. But the thing is, it was my second interview, and I thought, okay, I already blew it. I don't have like a solid chance anymore. So I wasn't nervous anymore for the other interviews. So I was like really calm and really like chill. And I thought that, oh, at least I'm going to have fun with the rest of the interviews, because I don't think I'm going to make it. So that actually ended up helping me a lot.
That's good. That's good. You know, again, the interview is like a conversation, and you know, it seemed like that kind of broke the ice for you.
Yeah. And the interviewers, all of them were really nice. And I was really nervous, like before the start of the first interview. But then like by the third interview, it just felt like a conversation. They were all really nice and really pleasant to talk to. And even like, I think most of the interviews went beyond the 45 minutes, but just because we were like just chatting, we went like beyond the interview phase. So that was really fun to do.
Oh wow, you went beyond the interview phase. Okay, that's really good. They must have been really interested in whatever you had to say. What were the conversations that you had with them?
I guess I had a lot of questions about like what they were doing exactly, and they also had questions about like what I'm doing currently at CERN, and we're also talking about like we even like I felt like we could joke around, and they were telling me that they came and visited CERN once, and they like did a tour in the underground. So then there's also this funny thing at CERN, because they with Tim Berners-Lee that invented the World Wide Web, and there's in one of the exhibitions, there's like a computer that has a note on it that says, "Don't turn me off, I'm a server." So that was like the first server. And then there was also his paper with like, he basically pitched his idea of the World Wide Web to his supervisor. And then the paper has notes on it that basically says, interesting, but very vague. I don't know if it will work. That's hilarious. So we talked about that a bit. So that was really fun to talk about. But yeah.
Okay, so you also...
It was like an informal chat, yeah.
I was going to say, so you not only were able to connect with them on a technical level by passing the interview, but you also got to connect with them on a personal level during those 45 minutes that you had, or longer.
Yeah, they were all super nice. Really, really nice people. So that was awesome.
That's good. That's really good. And I think one of the things I notice about a lot of candidates, this is speaking from my perspective as the interviewer, is that a lot of interview people that come in, they don't have that kind of personality to be able to connect with the person they're talking to. It's really for them just like a technical, we did the job, on to the next sort of thing. So it was really, I think it's really good that you also managed to connect and go further beyond that interview.
Yeah, I also felt comfortable doing that. So that's why, because had they been cold from the beginning, or had I felt like they wouldn't be comfortable in like me asking questions about their work more about how life is in Zurich, because that's the location where I'm flying to. I wouldn't have done that, but they were like so friendly, and I felt like they were more the ones that initiated it. So then I felt comfortable with taking the conversation further. So that was really good.
That's nice. Yeah, that's it's always good when the interviewer has like a warm and friendly vibe to them. It always puts you at ease. Yeah. So just to go back to the questions I have. So before, you didn't really have that much decent preparation, and then you were able to more... I think the advice I gave you was really to slow down and think of the design that you're creating and be able to explain it very simply, as if you were to explain it to a child. After and you said that was really helpful. What were the steps you took to actively practice this?
Yeah, so basically what I was doing before is I thought that the more problems that you manage to solve, the better. But it's actually not the case at all. It's more about explaining your thought process and showing them basically how you think, how you go through the problem. That's really a lot more important than you solving like 4 problems within the 45 minutes. So that was really the incorrect mindset that I had. So I was really rushing through the problems and trying to solve them as quickly as possible. So then what I did is basically I took your advice because when we did our coaching session, you gave me the first problem, which I did really quickly, but then I didn't write any like pseudocode or some steps for it. So I made sure that for each problem, I would write down some steps just to make sure that my logic is like written down somewhere and that I didn't miss an edge case or something.
Did you?
So yeah, I made sure for every problem to do that as well.
Okay. Did you feel that this was something that you did in the Google interview? Did it prevent any mistakes that you made when it came to the on-site? How did that translate over to the actual performance?
I didn't do it for all of the problems because I think for 2 of the interviews I got like 2 initial questions that were really simple. So for those ones I didn't write a lot of things down.
That's fine.
But I had one interview that was with a hard problem. So then that took the entire time of the interview. And for that one, I really spent a lot of time going into the design, going with different approaches and trying out different things and just like having the correct outline of the code that I was going to write. And I think I wrote the code in like the last 10 minutes or so, like 5 minutes. So the code like came really quickly after I wrote the design, and then it was much cleaner code than I would have written initially. And I also made sure to like test the edge cases on the design that I had and things like that, and to try to simplify it so that when I started to write the code, I had it really clear in my mind. And that was one of the points that I got in the feedback, actually, that the code was very clear on that interview and that he really liked my thought process and how I went through the problem.
Right.
So
Sorry, go ahead.
So I felt that showed a lot in that particular interview where I got the hard problem.
And so you spent a lot of time on design, a lot of time fleshing out your idea, and not a lot of time on code, and you still got a strong hire on that.
Yeah. And he actually was really happy that I went through the problem that way. And he actually told me at the end that he really liked my approach like that.
Yeah.
That was something really good. Yeah.
Do you think you would have done that before if we didn't have that feedback?
Yeah, I think I would have rushed a lot through it, and I don't think I would have done like such a thorough design. I think I would have rushed through it and missed some edge cases or something.
Yeah. So this is a message to the viewers who will be watching this. Guys, listen to her. Do your designs, please. Your code is not the most important thing. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't even have time to. There was a small function within my design that I didn't even have time to write. And I just told him, like, I'd leave it to the end, and if I have time, I'll just write it. And then if not, I'll just tell you how I'm going to write it. And I just told, in the end, I didn't have time to write all of it. And I just wrote part of it and then told him the rest, and he was still really happy with it. Because he wanted to see more of the design and the thought process. And it was also something like very small, some helper function that I was going to use, but still I didn't have time to like write the entire code for it. So I still got a strong hire.
Yeah, so it was a hard problem, and all you did was focus on the design, and you didn't even finish the code, and you still got the strong hire.
Yeah.
Awesome. So then what do you think were parts that you could have improved on? Because you mentioned before that when the recruiter contacted you and you gave him your initial impressions of your own performance, what were the things you criticized about yourself? What were the things that you felt that you could have done better?
So for one of the interviews, I missed an edge case that the interviewer had to point out. And even after I tested my code, I tested it a bit superficially because I didn't have a lot of time. And so I didn't go through like all of the steps to see that edge case that I missed. But then once he pointed it out, I was able to fix it quite easily. And I wasn't sure how much that would count into like the impression that I made. So I thought that would be a big like disadvantage, but then it wasn't in the end, because I was able to fix it really easily because I wrote the code in such a way that it was easy to handle that case as well. But something that I did wrong was for the interview that I thought went really badly. So I didn't have a lot of time and I panicked. I got the first question that was a lot easier, and I did that one pretty quickly. But then he gave me a harder question, the second one, sort of a follow-up for the first one. And I checked the time, and I didn't have a lot of time left once he finished explaining the question. So then I panicked. So I didn't go through the design at all. And I set an initial idea that was completely wrong. And I thought, and then I realized that it was completely wrong. But then I had already started writing the code for it. So then I stopped myself and told him, okay, this approach is wrong. I'm going to try something different. And then I went back to the design phase and then sort of designed it out. And again, I didn't have time to finish the entire code for it, but I had like the most important parts of the code for it. But then I thought that would be a big flag because I went directly to the code with an initial approach that wasn't working just because I was panicked because of time. So that definitely I thought was going to be something that went really poorly. But apparently in the feedback that I got, he wasn't expecting me to do the follow-up at all. And the first problem was the main problem that he had expected to do within the interview. So then the follow-up was sort of just a bonus to see how far I could take it with the problem. So I shouldn't have panicked. I should have tried to approach it calmly and not try to cram it in the time that I had. And I think if I'd approached it calmly, I would have done a lot better on that.
Yeah, I remember that was something that we had discussed where you would know the solution, but you would still kind of have a temptation to rush into it. But this time the source came from you looking at the clock. Do you find looking at the clock helpful when you do these interviews, or how about do you find it as a hindrance?
For me, it wasn't helpful because it just made me rush through things, and then once I started rushing through things, I started making a lot of mistakes, basically.
Okay.
I think you should like try to take your time and just like do it at your pace. And if you don't have enough time, then you don't have enough time. But at least you were like thinking clearly in the moment and focused on what you were doing instead of just thinking, oh, I have 5 minutes left. Let me just say something really fast and try to write something fast, but something wrong. So that's worse than taking your time and thinking about it, starting to try something that's wrong.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you felt that look at the time actually pressured you more into making more mistakes.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I guess we can pivot to your approach to these interviews. I understand that did you read my guide or did you not prior to booking the coaching session?
I did read your guide. Yeah.
Did you feel that it was useful? Did you copy the approach I suggested, or did you have your own take on it, or did you do something completely different?
I don't think I necessarily copied the approach, but I tried to like fit in the different ideas within the approach into my own approach, and sort of like take in the lessons that you had within the things that you'd found. But I resonated a lot with the part where you were saying that the problems with, like arrays and strings were the more difficult ones, because those were the ones that I was having trouble with. And then you suggested that I try grokking, and that was really helpful for me for those different patterns. So I resonated a lot with that part.
I feel that. So if you feel comfortable with sharing your approach, do you mind like giving a general outline to how you approach problems then? Because it sounds like it's pretty different from what I had suggested.
I don't think it's a lot different actually. So yeah, the first thing that I do is make sure that I understand the problem correctly, and basically ask a lot of questions. And this is what I did for all of the the questions that I was asked, just make sure that I really understood what the output should be for like the different edge cases that I thought of, and ask clarifying questions to see that I fully understood the problem. And then what I would try to do is like try to look at the brute force solution and try to improve on that. Basically, I think that's the approach that they also give in the cracking the coding interview. You know, there's like a chart with things that I found really helpful.
I don't really remember that chart. Could you briefly remind me?
I don't remember what it was called. It had like an acronym with things. I think it was BUD or something. Wait, let me look it up. I don't remember the exact name, and I don't want to say something that's incorrect.
It's like, okay. Yeah, take your time.
Yes, it's called the BUD optimization.
BUD optimization.
Yes. So basically, what it says is that you start off with the brute force solution, and then you try to find the points from that brute force solution that you can improve on, and the points that you can optimize. And then understand basically why that brute force solution is not the best solution for your problem and what you can improve on that. But then it has like all these different steps for like when you get stuck. And it says to like really try to go through the problem as if you would solve it yourself, like as a human being. How would you solve it? Because a lot of times you have the intuition into how to solve it in your mind, but you just can't like put it into like an algorithm or like see the actual steps for yourself. So then it says to try to do that, to like solve it yourself and just see how you would do it as a human being and what optimizations you're doing without even realizing it. And try to try those as well. And then what I would try to do if I'm still stuck is I can brainstorm different data structures or different algorithms to see if they would be a good fit into my problem. And then make sure that you've used all the information that you were given, because you wouldn't be given a piece of information within the problem unless it sort of helps you come up with the optimized solution. And then if that still doesn't work, and you're still stuck in the problem, I try simplifying it, taking out the parts that I'm stuck with, and then coming up with like the solution for the simple part, and then trying to build on top of that. So that would be like my approach if I get stuck on a problem, which did happen to me during the interview. I didn't really know the solution for problems. I was just brainstorming through it. So yeah, so once you come up with an approach, what I do is I try to look into the edge cases just to make sure that I covered those as well. And then I try to come up with the design. Many times I end up writing pseudocode, which you actually helped me with, because when I was writing pseudocode, I was going a lot into details, which I did in our coaching session. So after the coaching session, I really was like writing either in plain English some steps or just like very brief pseudocode, just to make sure I have the outline in mind. Yeah, and then once I have like everything clear, I start the actual coding.
Gotcha. So the biggest thing you took away was really that step to translate it into plain English, more so than the analysis of the problem.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And so where did grokking come in? Did it help you understand the problems better? Did it help you speed up your analysis? Where did that come in?
So I actually, with grokking, I really wish I would have found it earlier. Because I did it, I think, in the last week. So that was like really late already to be like learning the patterns and just sort of classifying them and things like that. So I really wish I would have found it earlier, because I went through I'd gone through already most of the problems from grokking. I just hadn't classified them into those specific patterns in my mind. So then when I was given a problem that would be solved in that pattern more or less, I was struggling a bit more to come up with the solution than had I known what to look for in the pattern and what things to watch out for and things like that. Especially with the dynamic programming one, because I felt like I really wasn't seeing like the different patterns within the dynamic programming problems, and I was really like sort of reinventing the wheel for every problem, just trying to rethink of it completely, and it was taking me a lot longer than it should have for many of them. And for many of them, when I was timing myself and doing the problem, I was going over the time that I was given. So then that was definitely a problem that grokking helped me overcome. But I just wish I would have found it earlier, because then I wouldn't have gone through those problems twice, and I would have had more time to practice those patterns.
I see. So you found yourself kind of tripping up on the same problems when grokking just kind of showed you that, hey, these are problems that are solved similarly and you can just do the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly. It really helped me like classify those problems that I'd basically done before, but never saw the pattern myself.
Yeah, I had the exact same problem, which is why I was looking for something like that. I was lucky enough to find it first, and then now that I recommend it, I'm happy to hear that other people are getting a lot of benefit out of that. Did you do elements of programming interview?
No, I didn't do that one at all.
Okay. So, and you only spent 3 weeks on grokking, really. How many LeetCode questions did you do in total, you would say, before, counting the ones before our session and after?
I think before our session, I'd done around 150, maybe a bit less. And then before the on-site interviews, I had around 260 problems done on LeetCode.
Wow, so you basically did like 100 problems in essentially 3 weeks.
Yeah, but I took the time off of work as well, and yeah, I was basically studying all day, so that's
Wow, that's a lot of time to dedicate to it too.
Yeah, but it also, I felt like towards the end, I was going through like a burnout, so I was really tired, and like the last few days, I just took a break from it all, because I felt like I was actually making myself worse than actually bettering myself, because I was really tired, and I wasn't focused anymore on the actual problems.
No,
so I also took like a break right before the interviews.
No, I totally know what you mean. Actually, the exact same thing happened to me. When I was doing my interviews, once I did, I think my third interview, and I was like, and during the meantime, I was still doing like LeetCode problems between every single day. And then eventually it just got to a point where I just did not care anymore. And then I just like, I did exactly what you did. I just stopped. I just didn't want to do it. And I just felt like every single time I was doing it, I felt like really, really bad and shitty about myself.
Yeah, exactly. I felt like I was forcing myself to do the problems, and I wasn't really enjoying them or like really focused on them. And then every time I'd get a problem wrong, I'd get frustrated, because I was like, oh, I have only a few days left until the interview, so if I can't solve this medium problem, how will I pass the interview? So it was really like it had a really negative effect on me. And like the last days that I took off, I just really like went out with some friends and just had fun and took my mind off of the interviews, and that I felt really helped me.
No, that's good to be able to relax like that. Yeah, like burnout is actually a real thing, especially for these interview preps. Especially because the mentality I think needed to really improve at these questions is like so taxing, because you're constantly criticizing yourself. You're constantly looking for better ways of doing things. How can you be more efficient? Why am I not solving these problems as fast as I want to? Did you ever feel that you were being too hard on yourself at any point, or did you feel like you weren't hard enough?
No, I think I definitely was a bit too hard on myself, but I wasn't the one to see it. Sort of my friends pointed it out and said that, oh, you've done all this studying, don't be so hard on yourself. Just sort of whatever happens. You just know that you gave it your best, and then that's good enough. If your best was good enough, then that's great. But if it wasn't, then you'll study harder next time.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Like you have someone on the outside who is there to like support you and really to give you an outside perspective. Did you feel that they were super supportive throughout your entire process, or did you feel that they kind of like stepped in at the last minute to kind of help you relieve the stress, or a little bit of both?
No, I think my friends were really supportive throughout the whole process,
Mm-hmm.
and they were really helping me just like focus on what I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'd made a study plan, and I was really sticking to it.
Mm-hmm.
But they really helped like pick up things like in the daily life that I didn't want to do anymore or didn't have time to do, like I don't know, walking the dog or like cooking or things like that. So I was really like not doing any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really just like focused on my study plan.
Mm-hmm.
But they really helped tell me like, oh, your study plan is a bit too intense. Just like cut down on this and then don't do this. Take breaks between these things.
Mm-hmm.
So they really helped me like not overdo it. If that makes sense.
No,
Because I
that
was
really
really
makes.
like not taking any breaks, not going out, and then that was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
But because I also didn't have a lot of time before the interviews,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't start the prep like 6 months prior or something like that. Because I was reading a lot of Leetcode discussions, and people were like starting to study like a year before or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was really stressing me that I didn't have a lot of time. But I don't think the emphasis should be on how much time you spend, but the quality of the studying that you're doing and how much you're really getting out of it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think that's a really good point. It's like the quality of your study. There's no point if you're just making yourself worse, if you're just beating yourself up.
Yeah, I think there was a point where I really realized that the studying that I was doing was not effective, and that I needed to stop the way that I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That I was doing a mock interview with a friend, and he
Mm-hmm.
specifically picked out a problem that I'd done before, and he was sort of around when he saw me do it, and I did it really fast and really went through it. And that was like towards the beginning of my studying.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and now it was a week before the interviews, and I was
Mm-hmm.
really struggling to do the problem, and a problem that I knew how to do like 3 weeks before.
Mm-hmm.
That was really the point when I realized that I stopped thinking during lead coding or whatever I was doing because I was so tired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a really good That's a really good, I think, measuring stick or milestone, knowing when to stop. And I think that's really helpful for the people watching. Like, if you are not using your brain, if you're not thinking at all, that you should just like take a break or at least stop for a few days and then get back into it. So going to your support structure, how on a scale of 1 to 10, how important are they? Would you say in the interview process compared to like studying and all the other things like Leetcode and whatnot?
I'd say it's definitely very important from a scale from 1 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 9.
9.
Because I was bringing myself down a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
and my support system was like really helping me with that and telling me stop reading failure stories on Leetcode discussions, or stop looking up people who studied for like a year and didn't get in, or yeah.
Oh my god, I did the exact same thing too. It's like I call it fear porn. It's like you look at them and then it's like, oh my god, why am I reading this? What can I do to not be like them? What did they do right? What did they do wrong? And how can I avoid all this?
Yeah, definitely. But there were also like stories that I was reading with people that were saying that, oh, I did really well and I got the optimized solution, I got bad feedback, and they're very critical of different things. And that really was not the case for me.
Mm-hmm.
They were just trying to see how you think
Mm-hmm.
and how you approach the problems. They really were really helpful, the interviewers, and not at all the way they were described in those stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people have a tendency when they get bad feedback or that they don't get the job offer, they have a tendency to be sour sometimes, and then maybe they can end up on those platforms just like saying their experience from their point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're seeing them saying that I did perfectly on the problem and still got bad feedback, and then you're like, well, what they did perfectly and I might not do perfectly, and so you have to be like above perfect to do those, and just really bring you down.
Mm-hmm.
And you really should think about the fact that not all of those stories are true as well.
So you would say there's like a Dunning-Kruger bias to a lot of the failure stories.
And I think they're definitely biased. I mean, they're people's opinion, and definitely when somebody gets like a reject or like a bad feedback, their opinion is inclined to shift towards like a negative attitude, and it ends up being more of a rant story that you're taking as such and seeing it as something like real, and then you're reading too much into it, and you definitely should not do that. And everybody's experience is different, and honestly, it did not help me at all to look up other people's experiences on the Leetcode discussions.
Right. I think it's really important to like really focus on what you're doing. I mean, there's always things that you can learn from other people, and it's important to like, to like really try to figure that out for yourself, but to really copy and to take essentially what happened to someone else as what will happen to you is pretty inaccurate and almost toxic even to a degree.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, now that you're in the acceptance pile, you're one of the winners. Do you resonate more with the other stories that talk about their offers?
Well, I think everybody's experience was like really different than mine. A lot of people were like really confident after the interviews. Some people were not very confident. But I think there was one particular story that I really resonated with. There was this guy talking about how after his interviews, he'd felt like he'd done really poorly on like 2 of the interviews, and those turned out to be his strongest. And then what he said is he didn't manage to finish the problems for both of them or something like that. And then everybody else was saying that basically if you don't get to the optimal solution and finish writing it, then you don't stand a chance, which really is not the case. And then that's what that guy said, that they're more interested in seeing how you think and how you approach the problems and how you write code and how you design the problem. And that really felt true in my case as well.
Oh, I guess since you resonate with that, do you feel that the guides and my emphasis focus too much on the getting solutions themselves? Do you think what would you change about the material that I have written or what I do?
Actually, I felt something that you did during the coaching session is that remember with the last problem, I sort of gotten towards the correct solution, but I did a few mistakes. And you told me that you wouldn't have passed me at that point. So now looking back, I don't know if that necessarily would have been true. Back then, yes, I didn't also explain my thought process well, but maybe if I'd explained my thought process well, the solution wouldn't have been that bad. So I think that was a bit discouraging for me. And what I took from it was that your solution has to be completely correct fast. Which I don't think was what you meant to tell me, but that's sort of what I interpreted it as.
Right.
Which was, yeah.
No, and thank you for that feedback. Because I definitely do think sometimes I come off as very harsh when it comes to this. But really, the only reason I do this is so that way people set very high expectations for themselves. So that way, by the time they go to the interview, that they can fly through it with like really easily, because like the optimal, like the absolutely perfect scenario is that you complete the interview with explaining your thoughts while getting the perfect solution. And this is like what I'm trying to get people to do, but they will still pass you, even with your story. Like they'll pass you with a strong hire, even if you don't finish the code at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for that feedback. I really appreciate that. Yeah. I guess to wrap it up, what are your future goals and plans now that you've passed the interview? And let's say that you do get to the you do team matching. What would be your ideal team?
Well, honestly, like project-wise, I don't know necessarily what the projects are, the ones that what projects are available in Zurich right now. But what I would like is a team that's that will basically allow me to grow in the direction that I want to grow. That wouldn't limit me into doing like only a certain type of tasks or working only with a certain type of technology. I've also, something that I've asked about during the interviews was the 20% time that that they advertise at Google. Basically, that you can, with 20% of your time, you can work on a project that you feel passionate about, either within Google or something that you're starting with other employees. So I'd also like to maybe at some point, when I'm more comfortable with the project and things, I'd also like to explore other options and see what other teams at Google are doing, and like keep my options open. And I'd really like to have a team that's supportive and that push me to go outside of my comfort zone and learn new things. The roles that I'm now going for are more full stack roles, so both back end and front end. So I'd also like that flexibility to like move through technologies and learn more things and not get stuck doing the same thing. So that's really what I'm looking for.
So you're really looking for that autonomy, the ability to guide your own career and have a support system in whatever you're hoping to chase.
Yeah, definitely. And have people that I can learn a lot from, and they're like experts on the things that I want to learn about.
Well, that's all the questions from me. Any shout outs you want to give to people? Any advice you want to give to the viewers?
Yeah, 4 months ago, I was just walking in a park with a friend, and I was telling them that I was thinking about responding to the recruiter that had contacted me. And then I told him that I never thought I stood a chance, that I don't know if I should go for it or if I should start studying. And now looking back, that seems like really funny, and I'm really happy that I took the chance, that I started studying, and a lot of things that seemed really difficult before now don't seem that difficult. It's actually really fun to go into the studying process. So don't keep yourself back. Just give it a shot and give it your best, and whatever happens, happens. And it's really fun trying. And the entire studying process is also really fun. Not just the last part where you get accepted or the part that really makes you happy, but the entire process is really fun. And it really got me excited about the things that got me into programming in the first place. And it reminded me why I love doing what I do. That's really good.
That's really nice actually to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't.
Because a lot of times in like our usual jobs, we don't really. Maybe sometimes you get into like this this mindset where you're doing like a lot of repetitive tasks, maybe sometimes, or things that you're really good at, and then you don't really need that problem solving skill, or you're not really thinking a lot about it. And you tend to forget like what the fun parts were in programming and doing what you like. So that really like took me back to when I was starting to program, and how I was approaching the different problems and things, and it was really fun to do that.
Oh, for sure. Well, congratulations again on completely destroying the Google interview. And honestly, I wish you the best of luck. You seem like you're really smart. You're really passionate about this, about programming, and I think you'll go really far in your career.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your help.
Oh, for sure. Take care.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.